All right, today we are diving into a really unique cosmology. This is a story of creation that starts way, way before what we call the Big Bang. We're going to map out the origin and structure of, well, everything, from a state of absolute nothingness all the way to the grand destiny of all universes. So yeah, let's get right into it.
So let's start with a big one, the question that really kicks this whole thing off. The Standard Model, right? It tells us everything just exploded into existence from a single point. But what if that wasn't the beginning? What if that event was just one chapter in a much, much larger story? What if something was there before space, before time, before the universe as we know it?
According to the source material for this explainer, the true origin point is something called the absolute nothing. Now, don't let that name fool you, because this isn't just an empty void. It's described as this state of endless duration, totally beyond our concepts of space and time. And here's the paradox. This nothingness actually contains an incredibly fine, latent potential, a form of what the source calls spirit energy. So it's the ultimate cosmic twist, a nothing that is somehow the source of everything.
Okay, so how do you get from nothing to, well, something? The source explains that inside this absolute nothing, a kind of self-exciting pulsation just happened. Think of it less like a giant explosion and more like a tiny, subtle flicker in the void. This pulsation condensed and created a single bipolar impulse, a negative and a positive charge. This wasn't a bang at all. It was the very first quiet spark that would set all of existence in motion.
So, from that one single primordial impulse, an entire architecture of reality started to unfold. It didn't just create one universe. It created a whole nested hierarchical structure for all of existence, made up of 7 distinct energetic planes. And this slide lays out that 7-layer structure. Right at the top, you've got the sane absolutum, born directly from that very first impulse. It's the highest, most primary form of existence. From there, 6 other planes, or absolutums, were created, each one nested inside the other, going down the ladder. So the key takeaway here is that reality isn't just one thing, it's this 7-fold energetic structure. And way down at the bottom, level 7, that's where we find the source of our own cosmic neighborhood.
Okay, so that's the grand blueprint of all reality. Now let's zoom in a bit and figure out where we fit into all this. Where is our place in this huge 7-layered reality?
That 7th and lowest plane, the absolute's absolutum, is basically the cosmic nursery for what the source calls creation universes. And they're described as the lowest form of universe for one simple reason. They contain physical, tangible matter. Our universe is one of these, and it's got a name, the DERN universe.
Now, what's really fascinating is that our DERN universe isn't just one big blob either. It's also structured in 7 layers, or belts. You can see here the central core is purely spirit energetic. But check out belt number 4, the solid body formation belt. That's us. That is every star, every galaxy, every single planet you've ever seen or heard of. We live inside this one single material band, and we're surrounded by 6 other non-material energetic belts. Kinda mind-blowing, right?
So if we live inside this really complex structure, how does time even work? Well, this cosmology doesn't see time as a straight line. Instead, it's a series of just immense, nested cycles of expansion, contraction, and renewal. So according to the source, the entire DERN universe, all 7 belts, is on a 311 trillion-year journey. The best way to think about it is like throwing a stone up in the air. It expands outward for 155.5 trillion years, it hits its peak, and then it contracts for another 155.5 trillion years. And at the end of all that, it transforms into a higher, purely energetic form.
And this is where it gets really cool for us. While that huge 311 trillion year cycle is playing out for the whole shebang, our physical reality, that 4th belt we live in, it's running on its own, much faster clock. It's not a one-and-done deal. It's a process of constant, seamless renewal.
And this is the length of that shorter clock, 49 billion years. According to the source, our material universe goes through a complete renewal every 49 billion years. But it's not a violent collapse and another Big Bang. It's described as a seamless, transitionless refresh of everything we can see and measure. It's like a fundamental reset that just happens without any visible end or beginning.
And based on the calculations in the source material, this is how far along we are in our current cycle. The last renewal, the start of our current iteration of the material universe, happened 17 billion years ago. which, if you're keeping track, gives our cosmos an age that's a little bit different from the 13.8 billion years you usually hear about.
So, in a cosmos that's always renewing itself, where does something like life come from? Is it just some lucky accident in all this vastness? According to this source, the answer is a definite no.
This quote really gets right to the heart of it. The source uses this German word, Fügung, which means something like a fated occurrence, or a perfect fitting together of circumstances. The idea is that life isn't some random lottery ticket. It's an inevitable outcome of the physics and the chemistry that are just baked into the universe itself.
So how does this fated occurrence actually happen? Well, it's a pretty natural step-by-step process. First, you need liquid water. Then, organic molecules, which are everywhere in the cosmos, start reacting with inorganic surfaces, like clay minerals. Those surfaces act as catalysts, and they spark the chemical reactions that create the very first complex biomolecules. And then, eventually, these molecules figure out how to copy themselves, leading to the first primitive cells that then spread all throughout the universe.
And you can see this inevitable process playing out right here at home on Earth. The planet starts forming about 5.2 billion years ago, it cools down, and then gets hammered by comets and asteroids that bring all the water. That creates the primordial soup. And then, get this, just 200 million years later, 4.29 billion years ago, the first real life emerges from biomolecules in those shallow, clay-filled waters. It happened pretty fast, all things considered.
And that brings us to the ultimate purpose of all of this. I mean, if life is inevitable and the cosmos is cyclical, what's the end game? Well, in this cosmology, every single universe, every speck of dust, is on an absolutely immense evolutionary journey.
The scale here it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Each creation universe, like our DERN universe, is destined to evolve through 10 to the power of 49 different forms or levels. That's a 1 with 49 zeros after it. It's a journey from the most basic material state to something far, far beyond.
So here's the path. A universe evolves through all of those countless forms. After its very last transformation, it integrates back into the absolute's absolutum, the very plane it was born from. From there, it begins its ascension, evolving up through each of those 6 higher planes we saw earlier, until it finally merges back with the ultimate source, the Zane absolutum. This completes the loop, creating a truly endless cycle of creation, evolution, and renewal.
And that leaves us with this final thought. In a cosmos that's built on these incredible, immense cycles of renewal and ascension, the very idea of a final end just kind of dissolves. Whether you're talking about the 49 billion year renewal of our material world or the trillions of years long journey of a universe back to its source, this cosmology suggests that every single conclusion is really just the starting point for the next, more evolved chapter.